Hello, and welcome to the second episode of my devlog series on my 3D roguelike using a dark fantasy theme. During this first episode, for the most part I was just making a map and a simple movement system, whereas in this video I'll show you how I made an enemy spawner, and a sword swinging animation. So when I first opened up Unity, I saw that I didn't really like the map that I had. I thought it felt a bit empty around a lot of plots and not really accurate to real rock. So what I wanted to do was sort of make it like a ring for the player sort of thing, how like most maps would be on a 2D game. You would be trapped in four corners of the map. So I started working on this using some more tools in my Unity project. Just basically shaping out the map, adding more mountains and turning it into more of a mountain range into a ring that the player can move around in and be properly confined in without being able to walk off the map or anything. After I'd gotten the basic shape of this, I basically spent the rest of the time making it sure that it looked accurate to real mountains. Like, I noticed some of the details in the peaks just wasn't working and it felt a bit flat around the ground. So I used a preset in my brushes called Meadow, a lot of that to kind of just raise and smooth out some of the terrain, just trying to make sure that it looked as accurate as possible to a real landscape. And once I felt this was as okay as I could get it, I tested it out and saw how it looked. Now, despite the fact that this didn't look the best, I decided that I would go back over and sort out the map later and start to work on adding more texture to my mountainscape and my landscape, just to make it kind of not all be the same. So I decided to add some like gravel material to the side of the cliffs, and I thought I wanted to add some more to the ground, so I also added a bit of like a mud texture to the grass, just kind of making it look more accurate and not flat and feel sort of not as good as it could be. Now you can see I struggled with this quite a lot. I really wasn't used to the tools that I was using here, and I had essentially no idea what I was doing. However, once I felt that this looked okay, I decided to move on from that and start getting work in with my enemy. Now, I hadn't actually modelled anything for the enemy yet, so I just decided to stick with a red capsule, similar to how I had a grey capsule for the player, and just basically work out the AI and the movement of the enemy and how it would work for now, and then model it based off how it would work or how it turns out. Now, scripting my enemy's movement was something that I also had no idea how to do. I spent a lot of time bug fixing, working out how to do it, researching through like old forums, Reddit, literally anything I could find, and eventually I just got a simple system to where it would follow the player. And I was okay with this going forward and seeing how I could work with that, so I just left it at that and tested it out. Now, with the enemy following the player, I wanted this to not be permanent, so I didn't want the player to spawn in and have, say, 100 enemies that spawn in one wave immediately running towards them, because obviously if they're going to get faster, they need to be having a range kind of thing. So I decided to work on scripting this as well, using just a simple radius script where the enemy would have a range around it and be able to detect the player within that. This actually wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, compared to some of the other stuff that I did in this video. Foreshadowing the animation. So yeah, I thought it worked out pretty well. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of scripting this part, but I'm made the enemy so that it would have a certain amount of HP, and once it got close enough to the player it would start losing HP, and eventually once that HP number had reached 0 it would delete the enemy. This was a really simple early version of the damage system I'm going to implement, where I want the player to be able to use its weapons, or if they have magic attacks, use magic attacks. If they have a bow and arrow, they could shoot the enemy to be able to actually damage them manually, but other than that, it worked pretty well. Now, to make the enemy spawn on my map as like a kind of repeating thing where it would spawn over and over, I already had worked on a similar project to this before, making a tower defense, so I had a little experience with spawning enemies, but I honestly had no idea. I still had to look up like 3 tutorials and a few Reddit pages. You can see me like frantically looking online here, and eventually it worked out. And I got to scripting and trying to make the system. Basically, I was having an issue where it was spawning like every frame. Now, at the time, I didn't realize, I didn't know properly how to use an I enumerator, which is what I would normally use to have a wait in my functions. So again, I had to go over so much, even going through asking the built-in assistant into Visual Studio itself, and looking through all of my models and figuring out why the issue was. And eventually I got it to work to where it would spawn one every 2 seconds, and then I tested it out. Now, this worked, but I had an issue where every time I was spawning, I had to manually place the player's transform in where it was following. I wasn't entirely sure why, and I still don't know why I can't manually place it in, but I had to eventually get around to just scripting it myself and basically forcing it in when the enemy spawns, which I guess works, but it would have been nicer to just have it in the base prefab and have that spawn with the player transform already in there. Now, I didn't intend for this to take me so long, but the animation process was the worst thing ever. I had no idea how Unity's animation engine works, and honestly, I still don't. I had to make it so that I could script it up to the player clicking rather than it just repeating over and over again. So I had to work with triggers and stuff and still script it, and this was possibly the biggest brain freeze I've ever had in my entire life. And yeah, that's just about everything I did. I hope you enjoyed the devlog, and I hope to see you all in the next one when I continue working. I intend on maybe making the enemy a rig, like a skeleton if I can model that, or working on implementing actual attack stuff where you can use the sword to actually damage it manually and have like a health bar or something like that. I'll see.